Hi everyone, our video lecture this time comes in two parts. First part will be on the different types of buying decision behavior, and the second part is about the buying decision process. Are you ready? Let me begin with the types of buying decision behavior. When you buy a toothpaste, when you enter the store, how long do you buy the toothpaste? I'm pretty sure you immediately go to the aisle where the toothpaste you have been using ever since is located, right? You no longer think twice and look for information to decide what toothpaste to buy. When you buy a cell phone though, it might take you longer time, yes? You have to compare prices, features, design, and a whole lot of other characteristics. Sometimes some of you may take months deciding which cell phone to buy and where. Others may take weeks, and there are others that take just a few number of days. Buying behavior differs greatly for a tube of toothpaste. An iPhone, a house, a car, or maybe choosing a school, and many other types of products and services. According to Kotler and Armstrong, there are four distinct types of buying behavior. The complex, the variety-seeking, we have the dissonance-reducing, and the habitual buying behavior. The diagram you see on screen shows the types of consumer buying behavior based on two factors: the degree of buyer involvement and the degree of differences among brands. When we say differences in brands, we are referring to the benefits, features, design, and other characteristics of the brands being considered in the purchase. So within a product category like rubber shoes, for example, the consumers may consider brands that have many distinct characteristics that makes it distinguishable from other brands. Now, when we say involvement, on the other hand, it's how much time and effort you put into the buying decision process. You may gather many information about the product, you ask your parents, your friends, you patiently read the reviews, you search for information on the internet, which may take you a bit long before you make a decision. Now let's talk about each of them, beginning with the complex buying behavior. Complex buying behavior is when consumers are highly involved in a purchase and perceived significant differences among brands. More complex decisions usually involve more buying participants and more buyer deliberation. Consumers may be highly involved when the product is expensive, risky, or purchased infrequently, and highly self-expressive. Typically, the consumer has much to learn about the product category. For example, when we buy a laptop, we may not know what attributes to consider. Many product features carry no real meaning to us, especially us who are not so technically knowledgeable. Like when we talk of Intel Core i7 processor, it might sound alien to us. Or when we mention about 8 GB dual channel DDR2 SD-RAM memory, I don't even know how to properly say these features. That is why the buyer will pass through a learning process. First, developing beliefs about the product, then attitudes, and then making a thoughtful purchase choice. Businesses of high involvement products must understand the information gathering and evaluation behavior of high involvement consumers. They need to help buyers learn about product class attributes and their relative importance. They need to differentiate their brand's features, perhaps, by describing the brand's benefits in their different advertisements, for instance, like in the internet, on TV, or in newspapers and magazines. Or they must motivate store salespeople and the buyer's acquaintances to influence the final brand choice. The next one is dissonance-reducing buying behavior. This occurs when consumers are highly involved with a usually expensive, infrequent, or risky purchase, but they see little difference among brands. For example, sometimes some of us buy a shirt and undergo a high involvement decision process. Because sometimes certain shirts can be expensive and self-expressive, right? Yet, buyers may consider most shirt brands in a given price range to be the same, like if it's between Pen Shop or Uniqlo, or between Lifeline and Novo. In this case, because perceived brand differences are not large, buyers may shop around to learn what is available but buy relatively quickly. They may respond primarily to a good price or purchase convenience. After the purchase, consumers might experience post-purchase dissonance or after-sale discomfort when they notice certain disadvantages of the purchased shirt brand, or when they hear favorable things about the shirt brands they did not purchase. To counter such dissonance, the business's after-sale communications should provide evidence to help consumers feel good about their brand choices. Take note, however, that the examples I'm giving you may not produce the same buying behavior because remember, we learned from the previous video lecture that buyer behavior may be influenced by perception, attitude, lifestyle, and other factors. The next one is habitual buying behavior. This happens under conditions of low consumer involvement and little significant brand differences. For example, take table salt. Consumers have little involvement in this product category. They simply go to the store and reach for a brand. If they keep reaching for the same brand, it is actually out of habit rather than strong brand loyalty. Now, consumers appear to have low involvement with most low-cost, frequently purchased products. In such cases, consumer behavior does not pass through the usual belief, attitude, behavior sequence. Consumers do not search extensively for information about the brands, evaluate brand characteristics, and make weighted decisions about which brands to buy. But instead, they passively receive information as they watch television or read magazines. Ad repetition creates brand familiarity rather than brand conviction. Consumers do not form strong attitudes towards a brand. They select the brand because it is familiar. Because they are not highly involved with the product, consumers may not evaluate the choice. And so, the buying process involves brand beliefs formed by passive learning, followed by purchase behavior, and after that, the consumer or the buyer may or may not evaluate the purchase anymore and ask if he or she has made the right choice. Now, because buyers are not highly committed to any brands, businesses of low involvement products with few brand differences often use price and sales promotions to promote buying. Or, alternatively, they can add product features or enhance the product to differentiate their brands from the rest of the pack and raise involvement. Consumers demonstrate variety-seeking buying behavior in situations characterized by low consumer involvement but significant perceived brand differences. In such cases, consumers often do a lot of brand switching. For example, when buying cookies, a consumer may hold some beliefs, choose a cookie brand without much evaluation, and then evaluate that brand during consumption. But the next time, the consumer might pick another brand out of boredom or simply to try something different. Here, consumers switch brands not because they did not like the taste and are dissatisfied with the cookie brand, but they just want to try other variants and flavors, simply for the sake of variety. In such product categories, the marketing strategy may differ for the market leader and minor brands. The market leader will try to encourage habitual buying behavior by dominating shelf space. By dominating shelf space, we mean you see them in prime spots in the grocery store, shelves upon entry, shelves at eye level. Keeping shelves fully stocked or never almost empty or half empty, and running frequent reminder advertising. Challenger firms, on the other hand, usually the minor brands, they will encourage variety-seeking behavior by offering lower prices, special deals, coupons, free samples, and advertising that presents reasons for trying something new. So you have learned the 4 types of buying behavior: complex, dissonance-reducing, variety-seeking, and habitual. Now let's talk about the buyer decision process. The buying process starts with need recognition. The buyer recognizes a problem or need. The need can be triggered by internal stimuli when one of the person's normal needs, for example, hunger or thirst, rises to a level high enough to become a drive. A need can also be triggered by external stimuli. For example, an advertisement or a discussion with a friend might get you thinking about buying a new car. At this stage, the business should research consumers to find out what kinds of needs or problems arise, what brought them about, and how they led the consumer to this particular product. An interested consumer may or may not search for more information. If the consumer's drive is strong and a satisfying product is near at hand, he or she is likely to buy it then. But if not, the consumer may store the need in memory or undertake an information search related to the need. We have seen how consumers use information to arrive at a set of final brand choices. How does the consumer choose among alternative brands? Marketers need to know about alternative evaluation. That is, how the consumer processes information to arrive at brand choices. Unfortunately, consumers do not use a simple and single evaluation process in all buying decision situations. Instead, several evaluation processes are at work. The consumer arrives at attitudes towards different brands through some evaluation procedure. How consumers go about evaluating purchase alternatives depends on the individual consumer and the specific buying situation. In some cases, consumers use careful calculations and logical thinking. At other times, the same consumers do little or no evaluating at all. Instead, they buy on impulse and rely on intuition. Sometimes consumers make buying decisions on their own. Sometimes they turn to friends, online reviews, or salespeople for buying advice. In the evaluation stage, the consumer ranks brands and forms purchase intentions. Generally, the consumer's purchase decision will be to buy the most preferred brand. But 2 factors can come between the purchase intention and the purchase decision. The first factor is the attitudes of others. If someone important to you thinks that you should buy the lowest priced car, then chances of you buying a more expensive car are reduced. The second factor is unexpected situational factors. The consumer may form a purchase intention based on factors such as expected income, expected price, and expected product benefits. However, unexpected events may change the purchase intention. For example, the economy might take a turn for the worse, or a close competitor might drop its price, or a friend might report being disappointed in your preferred car. So, preferences and even purchase intentions do not always result in actual purchase choice. The marketer's job does not end when the product is bought. After purchasing the product, the consumer will either be satisfied or dissatisfied and will engage in post-purchase behavior of interest to the business. What determines whether the buyer is satisfied or dissatisfied with the purchase? Well, the answer lies in the relationship between the consumer's expectations and the product's perceived performance. If the product falls short of expectations, the consumer is disappointed. If it meets expectations, the consumer is satisfied. If it exceeds expectations, the consumer is delighted. The larger the gap between expectations and performance, the greater the consumer's dissatisfaction. So, if you are the business or the seller, what would you do in order to minimize the gap between expectations and performance? This suggests that sellers should promise only what their brands can deliver so that buyers are satisfied, right? When you underpromise, there is a great possibility that you can exceed their expectations. So that's it for the types of buying behavior and the buying decision process. Until our next video lecture.